I'd like to mention a little bit about using directives and using statements. As you may have noticed that one thing that we type a lot is the nested namespaces to find stuff, find different classes where they are placed inside the XNA framework. Uh, we'll try to get rid of these so we don't have to type so much. And we can do this using a directive. A directive is not a statement. It is an instruction not to the CPU when you actually run the game. It is a directive, an instruction to the compiler when it is making the executable file. A using directive basically tells the compiler where it will find the different data types, in what folder, in what namespace are things located. You can see them as shortcuts to folders, so you can hide different namespace paths. Let me show you if I minimize this. Here you have the full path to my documents. Here you don't have the full path. It is the exact same folder. You can see that it has the same contents, but here we didn't need to type the full path. It found it anyway. If this would have been programming, this would have been a using directive defining that we don't need to type all of this. We would have put this in a using directive instead. Okay, so we have three solutions. We can simply use the fully qualified name. We simply type, like we have done so far, we type the entire path so that we can find the vector, and then we can assign it to the variable. The other thing we can do is that we can define a using alias, which we're doing here in this line. Using, and this is the alias. By defining an alias to a nested namespace, that means that we just need to use the alias, like here XNA, instead of the full path. The third way to do is to define a using directive. Here we don't define an alias, we just define a path where it will find things, which means that we don't need to write anything. We can just write vector2 right away. These are different styles of programming. The clearest thing to do if somebody comes new to the code is probably this one. This one is also good because it makes the code very robust, which means that, let's say that XNA has defined a vector2 class, and we also define a vector2 class in our own namespace. If we have this one down here, we wouldn't know if we were referring to our vector2 class or the one that is inside XNA. So C# could get confused by this, and by this it will never be confused. It makes for robust code, and it's clear for first time people that people look at your code. However, it gets very tiring to type, and it gets very tiring to read after a while. So a lot of people use this one. As a compromise, you can choose to have a using alias so that people know where you're getting code, and C# knows where you're getting stuff from, yet you don't need to type so much. In my code, I'll use using directives like here all the time. However, if I run into a situation where it is unclear, for example, there is a class inside Microsoft XNA framework that is called mouse, and we might make a mouse class later on. If that is the case, then for that particular situation, I will switch to a using alias to make things clear. But most of the time we'll use using directives. Now the second thing I wanted to mention was using statements. remember that statements are instructions to the CPU. So unlike using directives, which are instructions to the compiler, this actually affects your code. This actually gets to be part of the executable file. And a using statement is good because you can tell C# that whatever is inside the container of a using statement will be what is using the object. That was a bad explanation. Let me put it this way. First, you declare an object. You instantiate an object, and this object will be used as long as we are inside this container. And that is pretty obvious because the game object is used inside here. However, C# doesn't know if it will be used later on down here somewhere. We know that, however, that it will never be used once we get to this point, it will never be used again. So by saying that we are going to use the game object only inside these brackets, once the code runs to this point, then it is okay for C# to delete the object. As I said before, XNA, C# is a managed language, so it will deal with garbage collection by itself. You don't actually need a using statement like this, but it is polite because it clears up resources faster than if C# needs to figure it out by itself. So we will put that into our code in a few places. We'll start just with one so that you have an example. So let's move over to the code.